Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, Dr. Nick.
Good to see you, Tommy.
Hey, I want to say what's up to everybody in the room tonight. We have a very, very, very exciting masterclass to get to. All right. Good evening and welcome, everybody, to this masterclass focused on food and our relationship with food. It's called From Struggle to Strength. And I have with me here tonight a dear, dear friend, my personal MD, Dr. Nick Jensen, who is a naturopathic physician. Many of you know him from his work in the Recovery 2.0 community. And he is sincerely focused on detoxification of the cell, focused on bringing optimal health to his clients. He sees hundreds of clients a month in his clinic up in Vancouver, near Vancouver, BC, along with his wife, Dr. Sonia, who is also a naturopath. They raised two incredible children, two boys up there. And so we're just delighted to have Dr. Nick here. I want him to say hello and say a few words, and then we'll jump right into what's going to happen tonight.
Thanks so much, Tommy. So good to see you, all of you, or see your name, see where you're from. It's just so wonderful that we can bring a community together from all parts of the globe. So I'm excited to bring it tonight with you, Tommy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Nick. So what I'd like to do is tell you what we're going to do. Then I'd like to do it. And then I'd like to review what we did. At the end of this masterclass, for those who stay, we will invite you into the Food Reset program, which is a month-long program we'll be doing in October. You'll hear about it at that time. I want to invite you to stay, especially if you feel you might even remotely be interested in that opportunity. I will invite you into that program. We will offer the largest discount on the program that we're going to offer tonight exclusively to this audience. So if that's interesting to you, please stick around, and please stick around anyway, because we're going to get to a lot of information that I think will be helpful for us all tonight. Let's see here. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this experience in basically 4 sections. Each section, we want to cover something, one topic that we're going to cover in that section, make sure we all get it, and then we're going to move on to the next section. There'll be 3 poignant, salient topics covered tonight. And then at the end, we'll come to our introduction of the Food Reset, and we'll see who wants to take advantage of that opportunity. Okay. So Dr. Nick, the first part of this presentation is really about the intro. And what we're looking at is the why we are doing this. And I was wondering if you, as a medical doctor who sees patients literally all day long, every day, what would cause you to want to team up with me to offer what we're offering tonight in this masterclass? Why struggle to strength?
Yeah. Thank you again, Tommy. I just want to make a little correction. I think you said medical doctor. I just want to correct and say I'm actually a naturopathic physician, naturopathic doctor. So for anyone, just don't want to mislead anybody. So we, as a naturopathic physician, we get a chance to look at the whole body, to look at root cause reasons, our origin story for how we got to where we are now. I could list off 1,000 different reasons from the different faces of the patients that we get to interact with on a daily basis. The one that hits home the most, though, I'm going to be honest, is my mom. She at some point in her journey, whether it be a mixture of early menopause as a result of a hysterectomy, to a mouthful of metal fillings, to high amounts of stress, not eating the right kind of foods, eventually developed cerebral aneurysm about 10 years ago now. She's one story of many people who didn't realize that dis-ease was building in her body over time, something preventable, but without the right tools, without even me having the right tools to guide her. She's her own vehicle, of course, and has to make her own decisions. But it's stories like this where people end up in a reality that they didn't see coming. And that's the struggle with strength. And when we start to recognize where we're stuck, these hidden pieces that we didn't have awareness to see before, that then becomes a clarity for us. We can start to make changes in our life. So it's that story mixed in with 1,000 others that really, pulls my heartstrings to want to do something proactively before an inevitable reality can show up for somebody.
I want to just dovetail off of that to speak about my parents, who were really poster children also for people who didn't know what was happening in their body, couldn't make the connection between the food choices they were making, the lifestyle choices they were making, and what would end up happening to them in their 30s, 40s, 50s. My mom unfortunately died at 51 years old from lung cancer and a whole bunch of things, really. My father would make it to 72 or 73, but the last 15 years of his life were a disaster, complete with kidney failure and open heart surgery, arterial bypass in his left leg, all kinds of dialysis, and all the difficulties and pain that goes along with those kinds of conditions. So I think Dr. Nick and I both come to this because basically we hate to see people suffer. And especially we hate to see people suffer unnecessarily. And when it comes to food in this day and age, we don't have to suffer in these ways. We can change the direction that we're headed in, and we can do certain things and take on certain protocols that are going to detoxify the body, bring it back into balance, create vitality, immunity, and help us move forward. So we're doing this basically because we care, and also because I recognize personally, and I know Dr. Nick will relate to this, and I think you will too, there's so many opinions, so much misinformation, so much confusion about what each of us as an individual should actually eat. And I live in Los Angeles, California, and if you were to go out on the street and poll 10 people, hey, what do you think I should be eating? You would get, oh my God, it would be an absolute onslaught that would come to you, and it would be probably 10 different opinions for 10 different people and all these ideas. So there's a certain amount of confusion out in the field, and we want to help with that here tonight, and also in the food reset that we'll do in October. Okay. Good, Dr. Nick?
Yeah, good. And you asked one more question that was just why you, and why collaborate. From the moment you and I got a chance to sit down and hear each other's philosophy, there's so much synergy, right? And there's so much of this passion to want to serve the community and support people on this journey. So it's really this alignment of Western, Eastern medicine merging with Western, Eastern philosophy. So it's really like this merging of science and art, and it's the science and art of food as medicine. So that's why we're here.
Thank you so much. So here comes the first section that we'll cover tonight, first main topic. And in a word, it could be encapsulated with the word ease. Moving into ease. Mentally, being in an easeful and calm state, having mental clarity, having energy, physically, having vitality, being able to conceive of an idea and be able to manifest and see things through our actions. Also being what I would refer to as spiritually fit. So this is all about, we're speaking about food, which is about the physical body, but we also know that food is going to affect our emotional state. Our food choices are going to affect our mental state. Literally the way that our brain functions and the chemistry of our body, all of this is going to be tied to food that we eat. And what I think everyone in the world probably would be interested in the idea of more ease. And so I think we'll start there. Dr. Nick, what is your thought on this from the naturopathic perspective?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first concepts of naturopathic medicine, and I think medicine in general, is to first do no harm. And so, in yoga, that's ahimsa, to the practice of nonviolence. And when we think of unfortunately, how we're treating ourselves in our environments, how we're taking care of our environments, it seems to be the exact opposite representation of that, where there is so much harm going on. And even how we relate to our bodies, how we see ourselves. We see ourselves often as the result of our circumstances, looking at ourselves outside in instead of inside out. And it's all these dichotomies where it's no wonder why we move into dis-ease. It's a reality of the modern world that we live in. And so, whether it be developing a practice of yoga and breath work and instilling some of that courage that comes through that heart and that breath, but also the courage to accept that when we nourish ourselves through right relationship with the foods that we're choosing, life can be more in a state of ease as opposed to dis-ease. So I think it's a reconciliation of this internal external conflict. But it's an important one. If we don't choose it for ourselves, it's pretty easy to move out of ease.
Thank you so much. I also love in the work that I'm doing with regards to addiction, we often will say, or it's generally thought of that addiction is a disease. You have the disease of addiction. I prefer to break that word up into two words, dis and ease, looking at it as distance from ease. For me, it's easier to relate to the idea that I'm at a distance from ease when I'm in the condition of addiction. So that's for the people out there who identify with that nomenclature and those words. Our job in recovery, our job for all human beings, is to move ourselves from, if we're at a distance from ease, we want to move closer to ease. And so our recovery is really about what actions can we take to move ourselves closer to ease. And so that's what, part of the reason why we focus on food so much, because it's really, it's one of the places we can establish an addictive state or establish a state of freedom and a state of health and well-being. So it might be of use to people listening to this to begin to assess themselves and to assess the diet that you do have today. Some of you might think right up front, wow, I'm struggling around food. Some of you might say, well, I'm not in the body I feel like I want to be in, or I really struggle with energy or clarity and all that. But it's good to ask these questions that I'm about to ask you. And it's good to look at these questions on a semi-regular basis. So I'm calling these the 5 food questions. And these are 5 questions you can ask yourself. And it will help you determine how your diet's going. And it will also draw a connection between the food you eat and other areas of your life. So the first question is, do I have energy? Obviously, it's sort of clear that we want to eat for energy. We want to have energy. I think where we've come, it's pretty well been worked out that where we've come to as a people is that we've normalized eating for stimulation and eating for sedation. So those are addictive tendencies in the way that we are approaching food. So can we ask ourselves, how's my energy in the morning? How's my energy in the afternoon after I eat, for example? Do I eat lunch and then feel like I absolutely have to go to bed at 2:00 in the afternoon? Do I have that long-lasting, steady flow of energy throughout the day, or am I up and down all day long? So that's the first question. Dr. Nick, let's jump into this. I know we're going to talk about blood sugar in a moment and insulin, but from the naturopathic perspective, what are we hoping for from a really great diet?
Yeah, well, I put it in the chat bar just as a reminder for people that energy equals the currency of health. And so, we live in a world where we're constantly revving up our engines with caffeine and just really trying to push ourselves into a state of energy, or we're trying to wind ourselves down at nighttime. And so, we have this unrealistic and non-reflective true state of energy, and that sometimes energy is just purely coming from stress. There's been a few different messages in here just around the state of different people's lives and what they're going through, and what it takes to actually just elevate their energy is this currency of cortisol, or stress hormone, instead of the currency of nutrition and nourishment that can come from balancing our hormones through how we're eating. So some people, I hear this in the clinic a lot too. Well, I've got lots of energy. And then we measure their pulse, check their blood pressure. It's because the energy is coming from stress hormones. And so just getting real with that currency of health in the form of energy, and is it sustainable? Is it nourishing? Or are we pushing ourselves to such a degree that we're pushing ourselves towards that aneurysm or that stroke, or whatever that inevitable energy demand that we're taking from tomorrow to use for today, whatever that could be. So that's what I think about energy. Yeah.
Love that. And on that same note of people maybe misrepresenting where they're at, we always do a survey when people come into our food reset or they come into other programs we do, and we'll ask people, do you feel you have a healthy diet? And 90% of the people will say yes. Oh, absolutely. I feel like I have a healthy diet. And then later on in the survey, like way down, we'll say, do you experience bloating, constipation, and discomfort after you eat? And 90% of the people say, yes, I do. And so it's like there's this, interesting disconnect there. But I love what somebody put in the chat bar right here: coffee in the morning to get going, wine at night to slow down. And that's exactly precisely what we're talking about. That is one way of looking at that sort of way of approaching food, is to say that you are no longer allowing the natural circadian rhythms of the body and their unbelievable intelligence to just be. So we're tinkering in a very serious way with the chemistry of this body, our endocrine system and our nervous system. And we know that this actually leads to sickness and disease. And so not well advised. Obviously, you can get away with it for a little while. You won't know right away, but that's what we call making mistakes upstream that cause downstream issues. All right. Second question here. So first question, do I have energy? Second question, do I have mental clarity and acuity? Are we spending the day trying to remember? Are we scattered mentally? Are we unable to make a decision? Are we stuck in stress, in worry about the past and projecting out into the future? Have we lost our presence in this moment, and too much is going on that we feel that sense of mental overwhelm? And at a certain point, we just can't take it anymore. And, a lot of really challenging things happen for us mentally and in terms of our, literally our intelligence and the way that we're showing up in the world. Dr. Nick?
Yeah, I like the analogy of it's like pushing a thought through Jello. It's just, it captures that imagery of like, my goodness, it's so hard to just get what you want to say out. And maybe it's from just, poor sleep and poor circadian rhythm, but it might just be the norm for you or for the individual that's experiencing these things. And, not to get too focused on dis-ease manifestation, but the early signs of Alzheimer's dementia are memory loss. And so it's not often talked about as one of like the most important things to look at as far as ongoing symptoms. But if we are noticing worsening ability to access memory, or to access our words, or to just remember what happened yesterday, these are signs that we need to pay attention to. So I love that it's in the list of 5. It's such an important one.
Oh, thank you. Third question, how am I sleeping? And I always call sleep the unsung hero of wellness, of health and wellness. We just simply don't give it its due. What are you seeing around sleep?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about this later in regards to blood sugar, but that getting in touch with nature is critical to be in balance with just that sun-moon cycle. And, ideally, we also change how we're sleeping throughout the year. Our modern circumstances don't necessarily allow that with work and whatnot, but we do our best to adapt. And really, that's the word, is adaptation. We can compensate for a period of time until we can no longer do so. And so that, these other symptoms of fatigue or weight gain or brain fog or joint pain and other things start to creep up. And it just goes back to this core foundational truth that we need to be in balance with this circadian cycle. We need to honor our sleep. And we're going to dive into how that relates to your blood sugar in a little bit.
And I imagine the importance of sleep, it becomes really significant when, for example, we are taxing the body or taxing the mind in any kind of big way. Like the body absolutely needs that sleep in order to rejuvenate itself. So this is going to be one of the big questions that we have to ask ourselves. And you'll find out very soon there's a real connection between food and our sleep cycle. Fourth question, how am I eliminating? Am I regularly going to the bathroom? And for this one, I just like to always say, when I'm on retreat with people and we go through this question and we go through these questions, I find that some very large percentage of people don't go to the bathroom every day. And it's like incredible to me. And the problems with that are many, and we'll let our naturopathic physician comment on it. But this is one of the very important things we're going to want to look at when we're talking about ease and health and energy, detoxification, etc. Dr. Nick.
Yeah, I like to tell our patients that just imagine if the garbage truck only came once a month or once every 2 months, it would be just an absolute horror show outside the house. And this is unfortunately normal for those individuals that are stuck in the state of constipation. There's a transit time that should be somewhat average for most people, meaning the time it takes from food to go from mouth to toilet. Let's say on average, that should be somewhere around 16 to 18 hours. So that technically would mean if you're having 3 meals a day, you should be looking more like 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. So when we're not there, it's a sign that we are keeping that toxicity, that burden inside the body longer than we need to. And it's one of those daily functions that we really need to correct, just like the sleep. So, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. And I heard a beautiful quote, which really underlines this. And the quote was, all disease begins with constipation in one form or another. So that can be energetic, that can be spiritual, that can be mental, that can be literally blood in the arteries, or that can be your bowels. So these forms of constipation lead directly to disease. And there is a solution to this that we're going to talk about when we start speaking about the food reset in a little while. Okay, the fifth question, am I mostly healthy or am I getting sick often? I can speak from personal experience as a kid, as a child, and then in my adolescence, I was sick an incredible amount of the time. And the two things that got me were bronchitis and strep throat. The other thing that got me were migraine headaches. That's another story, but of course, related to my food and my sleep cycle and my exhaustion and my hyperactivity, fueled by a completely sugar addicted diet and approach to the world. So I was sick a whole lot. And so it's very easy for me to see the connection between food and sickness because I experienced that through the first part of my life. And then when I finally woke up and started to address my relationship with food, I started not to get sick. And then I started to build true vitality and immunity where I almost never get sick now. Dr. Nick?
Yeah, again, we see it all the time in the clinic. Someone could be just chronically stressed and their immune system is getting suppressed. And then when they finally, let's call it the vacation effect, it's like when they get a little bit more bandwidth, a little bit more energy in their system, bang, they get a cold or a flu. And it just seems to be in this repetitive cycle of stress, suppress, and then relax, activate. And it happens for us all. And, same for me as a kid. It was asthma, it was strep throat, eczemas. And there's a lot of things there, from dairy sensitivity, peanut allergy, to all sorts of things. And as I learned to clean up my diet, my gut, which I didn't learn until at least a couple of years in the naturopathic school, I really turned my GI health around and really noticed like years without getting sick. Whereas before it was always a few times a year and sometimes more. Especially when the kids came around, that was another hit on the immune system. But again, learn how to navigate and adapt through new strategies. But it's a really important marker for health, definitely. And then there's sort of the other side of things, like I said before, just those people are not getting sick. We can have people that have such suppressed immune responses, and we'll see it in their white blood cell levels, that they're just chronically low. And those chronically low white blood cells are not able to mount a response. And so having some balance between the two is critical.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. So we're going to come to the end of this first section that we're talking about ease and these questions and sort of a self-diagnosis of how are we doing. Dr. Nick, could you speak to the solution to finding more ease and what we're really talking about here?
Yeah. So this was one of the slides that I think speaks so brilliantly to the solution. And the solution comes into that state of ease when we find ourselves wrestling with the idea of the impossibility of the mountains we have to climb and what we have to endure. Sometimes seems too great that we choose. We don't choose ourselves, and so we choose to be stuck in the perception of impossibility. But however, as we move into ease, we realize that one day the impossible will become possible. And so this was a beautiful quote that actually, Tommy, you shared with me. Here's another one. Maybe you want to speak to that one, Tommy?
Sure. What's the issue here? Every one of us wants to be healthier, wants to make better decisions in our life. Each one of us wants to learn and grow. And we're the one in the ways of learning and growing. There's a resistance that comes up through change. And don't feel alone. We're all in this. Part of our training, and part of the training, especially of a food reset, like what we're going to do in October, is that we need to be trained to face our resistance and then to bust right through it and to keep going steadily, one day at a time. And if we expected that the whole thing is going to be comfortable, it just isn't going to work out for us. That's an incorrect assumption that when you're growing, that there's just going to be comfort and ease. No, to get to the ease, we have to move through discomfort. We have to move through our own resistance. So I love this. I love this graphic.
It feels like they're on a date, right? It's like, and it's that internal conversation we're having with ourselves, of kind of waxing and waning between these two mindsets. So yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love it.
And there's one more here, and this is one of your favorite quotes. So maybe you could speak to this one, and then I'll throw in some dialogue as well.
Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vow 100 times. Come again, come. That's beautiful Rumi poet from the 13th century. Might as well have been written this morning for its relevance to all of us. We have all broken our vows. Everybody. And we've broken our vows so many times. And that is not a reason to give up. So this is that opportunity where we can band together and do something extraordinary, support each other, moving through our own resistance to our next level of growth. Everyone's a beginner to their next step. Everyone. But to get to that next step for each of us, it requires that we try, that we show up, no matter how many times we've tried before. And we will create strategies together and systems together that will bring us to greater and greater effects and outcomes to the work that we're going to do together.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you brought that quote to my attention too. And I wanted to imprint this on the imagery of Sisyphus and just the story of that struggle. Yes. And I think it's interesting because, especially in this realm of making dietary changes, on the outside, it looks, my goodness, that looks so hard. Why would you bother doing that? Right. And so there's this idea, like William Shakespeare says, it's not that it's good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And so we can look at this picture and see this man absolutely struggling. But at some point he had to come to terms with what his fate was, what his reality was. And so another way to look at this is he fell in love with this practice of endurance, of strength, and of just enduring this experience, and not necessarily what we might perceive, which would be, my goodness, this is hard. And I think this is the way that we can look at this journey of healing that we're on, because we're going to be faced with things that are going to challenge us, like Sisyphus pushing the stone up the hill. And to the quote of Rumi there, so come again. And what a beautiful reminder that the obstacle is the way. We can move through these experiences if we choose not to pretend they're not there, but actually go through them. So beautiful, beautiful imagery and quotes here.
Love it.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to the next one, right?
Yes, we're going to move to section number 2. And this is called the blood sugar roller coaster. And we'll refer to this actually as the 200-year pandemic. The 200-year pandemic. We'll come to a graphic in a minute. But I'm going to call this a 200-year pandemic because for the past 200 years, this has been getting worse and worse in our society. Our addiction to sugar, our annual dose, each of us on an average level, and we are seeing every form of disease, and it absolutely is connected to this increase in our intake of sugar, along with a lot of other environmental impacts, such as the degradation of our soil, the use of toxins in our food production, and so many other things. But yeah, it's frightening. So with the blood sugar roller coaster, what's the issue? Down the road, the issue is diabetes. Before that, it's pre-diabetes. Before that, it's insulin resistance. And none of these things are anywhere any of us want to end up. But Dr. Nick, what do you see in your clinic in terms of people with at least insulin resistance? And then we'll talk about what insulin resistance actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. So the unfortunate reality is that people don't know where they're at. My wife likes to say the highest form of self-care is self-awareness. And I totally believe in that, because most of us have no idea where we are. We're looking outside in to think or determine how it is that how our health is going. And categorically, when I get a chance to work with the people that we do, 90% of the people at least are stuck in a state of insulin resistance.
90%.
At least. I'm being generous here. It's such a small percentage of people that come in, we run the blood work, and their blood sugar looks phenomenal. And so we're seeing where it's creeping up. And so because this is such a huge predictor of dis-ease, the big diseases of Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, autoimmune conditions, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, Dr. Peter Attia calls them the 5 horsemen of the apocalypse, meaning that there's conditions that are directly related to blood sugar dysregulation. And despite our best efforts, we may think we've got a good handle on it. It's not until we see the laboratory analysis that we can see where people are getting stuck. So it's time to start to look at sugar as a toxin.
I love that. And so to underline the importance of this, I want to make this relevant for everybody who may say to themselves, well, I don't have insulin resistance. So before, let's say you don't, and you're one of the few in our society. Wonderful. How do you feel when you overdo sugar before insulin resistance comes in? We're talking about a couple things here with sugar. One thing is fatigue. Sugar is, let's call it a drug. And let's say that it's a toxic drug, and it has the characteristic of quick energy. So there's a boost, there's an up and there's a down very quick. And the down is not pleasant. It's like getting dropped from a couple stories up. It's like very, very rude, this drop from that high. So there's the quick energy, and then there's down, and it has major implications with regards to insulin, which we'll talk about in a moment. But you'll feel sugar imbalance sometimes as fatigue. You'll also feel it as insatiability in your appetite because of the way that sugar is going to spike insulin. Protein will also spike insulin, interestingly. But sugar, the way it spikes insulin and it causes that crash, when that crash comes, guess what happens? Oh, I need something. What do I need? Well, I need more. I need more food. I need more sweets. I need more sugar. I need to go and get more energy from wherever I can. So we're going to see fatigue. We're going to see an imbalance in our energy, and we're going to see our appetite. go up. We're going to start to eat more often. Dr. Nick?
Yeah, that's a beautiful explanation. And as we correlate sort of this idea of energy as a currency of health, we want to look at what's our efficiency to access this energy. And when we don't, how is that showing up in our life? I think, one of the things that we talked about before was that you said this is a 200-year pandemic, and there's a photo that's going to go with that in just a moment. But what does that really mean on a day-to-day basis? It's also a pandemic of procrastination. If we can't access energy, we're less likely to take action on our health. We're less likely to take action on that business opportunity, that relationship. We're less likely to put effort in where effort is necessary. And so we may find ourselves less creative, less productive, less loving towards the people that matter to us. And so it's the fallout from blood sugar dysregulation is not so obvious up front, but as we start to pay attention to it, we can realize that so much of our unresolved or unrealized dreams are not happening as a result of not having this currency of energy. And then what else? Oh, go ahead.
No, you please finish.
I was just going to say, just regarding just that sleep circadian rhythm as well. I think another misdiagnosed piece of this puzzle, especially if you're just working with your medical doctor, maybe not looking at things from a holistic point of view, that studies show that even after 5 days of poor sleep, this is like setting up a state of prediabetes in the body. And so blood sugars is way more dysregulated as a result of just poor sleep. So just wanted to make the connection between our lifestyle habits that we may not really put enough emphasis on, and just how that can predict and also create this state of dis-ease in the body.
Thank you so much. I just have to just echo, you said pandemic of procrastination. That's such a powerful concept. I call procrastination one of the 4 aggravations that I speak about, write about: negative thinking, self-doubt, procrastination, and resentment. And I'm only now making the connection just now that those 4 things also are related to our food: negative thinking, self-doubt, procrastination, and resentment. There's a total connection to each of those aggravations with food, and especially with the variants of the hormone insulin. Could you give a 30 to 60 second brief lecture on what insulin does for the cell in the body? I know we're going to, or should we wait till the 3rd section?
Let's jump into the sugar, and then we'll wait to the 3rd section.
Very good. Very good.
About that. Okay. So I'm going to share the picture for you.
Okay. So let's take a look at sugar over the last 200 years. Okay, here we are. So the average American consumes 130 pounds of sugar every year. So we consume 765 grams of sugar every 5 days. Compare that with the year 1822, when the average American consumed just 45 grams of sugar, which is the amount found in one of today's 12-ounce sodas. So imagine over 5 days, our ancestors in the 19th century, in 5 days' time, they only consumed the amount of sugar in 1 can of soda. To put that in perspective. So if anybody, questions that we have an issue, an addiction to sugar, or that 130 pounds of sugar might be a dosage problem in our body, might create some problems in our body, well, those doubts hopefully are dispelled now with this image. It's horrifying, quite frankly, for me as a recovering addict. Wow. So
truly is.
It brings it into perspective. What do you think, Dr. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, even just looking at this, the data on cancer rates in the 1920s is 5%, whereas now it's 1 in 2, 50% of the population. So, is it exactly this? I wouldn't say, of course, we can't know that it's exactly this, but this is a massive game changer in the day-to-day, experience of living, in our modern times. And just from what we know that what sugar does in the body, it is like a rust. It's like deteriorating the integrity of our vascular system, our brain. We know that even just a suspended period of time, as in a week or two, our brain can actually atrophy as a result of this toxin. So you said something really important, that was dose. And so sugar in of itself, we create it through our liver, called gluconeogenesis. We make it on our own. We get it, we extract it, and we can build it. We can actually make it from protein even if we need to. There's no amount of sugar that we technically need exogenously or from our diet, because we can make it de novo or from nothing. And we might grab a cookie from time to time. There's a photo of that too coming. But the reality is that there is a dose dependency that actually makes this a toxin in the body. And because of the circumstances of life, that dose seems to get less and less as more time goes on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nick. What a powerful quote. Let's see here. Moving on here. So the takeaway from section 2 here is that sugar is a toxin at a specific dose, that it creates problems in the body, that it creates something. The comparison that Dr. Nick is making is like something like rust and oxidative stress on the body. And then we have to work very hard to deal with that. It also really tweaks our insulin, and that has a big effect on our cells, and we'll see what the effects are in just a moment. Dr. Nick, would you speak to the solution for number 2? Okay, we have this sugar problem. Generally, we agree that this is a toxin. What can we do about this, and how are we going to address that in the food reset?
Yeah, definitely. So the good news is that despite the impact that these outside sources have on us, our bodies are incredibly resilient. We're very or highly adaptable to making change in the body. And the problem is that it requires making changes, which we saw just like with the picture of Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a hill. This change can feel overwhelming. And what I find in my practice is that until we've properly understood the a model for dis-ease, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. I remember back, just a quick little story, when I was a kid, I had just insatiable curiosity for my body. And so I remember pulling out the encyclopedias. Yes, I was born at a time when there was encyclopedias. Internet didn't come for me until, at least grade 10. So there's a time where I would, if I noticed something on my body, maybe a rash or a bump or something, I would be in an encyclopedia diagnosing myself. And early on, up until naturopathic school, I thought that dis-ease just arrived spontaneously. And so it can feel like that for many. And many of our patients are in that paradigm that it just happened. It just happened. And that as soon as we graduate out of this understanding that things don't spontaneously happen, we're a result of our history, we're a result of our origin story, the toxicity, the stress, the accumulation of the wrong kinds of foods or addictive pathways that have led us down different roads. We are a cumulative effect of all of our circumstances. And so the good news is that there are an incredible amount of tools. Someone mentioned here that the life expectancy was 32 back in 1822. Fully agree with that there was different stressors and challenges of sanitation, of infection, and things like that we've come to realize. Emergency medicine in the world that we live in, it does a phenomenal job at keeping people alive as a result of the things that would have taken us out hundreds of years ago. But as a result of the world that we are in, we need to be more adaptable. And that happens through really understanding how dis-ease manifests in the body. And that's really this is why we come together to teach people how to do this, Tommy.
Yes. So the body craves what's in it. That's a big statement. The body craves what's already in it. We can take an approach, a strategic approach, a protocol for a very, very short but steady period of time, which is going to completely shift our experience of craving and our experience of energy and everything that we're talking about right now. We can flood the cells with nutrient-dense foods. We're talking about hydration, remineralization of the body. These are big, big topics for us for the month of October as we get into the food reset. But the main thing that I want to bring to all of your attention is there is a solution for this. There is a strategy for pursuing that solution successfully. And that's really why we put this program together. This is an easy access way to offer the solution that we have. So there you go. Okay. Someone's asking, will it be the same information as the last food reset? Not only is the information updated, but you are updated. You are not the same person you were the last time you took this food reset. Not at all. So very, very different. Lots of different experiences yet to be had. So if you've taken this before, come again, come again, come again. All right. Everybody good if we move on to section 3, to our next section, and then we'll probably go about 10 minutes over. Is it good? Okay. Good. All right. So section 3. This is called Fix the Cell to Get Well. Fix the cell to get well. And the theme of this concept is really inflammation. And so we'll let Dr. Nick do what he does best to really talk about the health of the cell.
Yeah. So those of you that have heard me speak before, this is one of my favorite topics. And we were just discussing when we don't have a model or a roadmap to understand how dis-ease manifests in the body, we can feel like things are just happening to us. And so in fact, things are happening through us as a result of all the things that we get exposed to. So I like to imagine the grape and the raisin. And so when we are stuck in sugar oxidation or sugar breakdown, it's like that rust that builds up on, say, the outside of a car, and that creates that contracted tissue. The higher that blood glucose, the more we get tissue degeneration, just like the atrophy in the brain. And so that degenerative state, that state where we get stuck in a chronic inflammatory state, our cells literally send signals to neighboring cells yelling out, I'm in danger. There's crisis going on. I need help. And so that brings in the immune system, that brings in more factors that are trying to resolve that. Unfortunately, we get stuck in a state of inflammatory. We don't reconcile the inflammation. So there's no resolving mechanism. And so, especially in the world that we live in, we're not getting the signals through our diet, through influences that we can create within our body to actually tell our inflammation to resolve. And so as we make these corrections, we can actually turn our cells into more robust, grape-like cells again, that which we had when we were younger, less oxidative damage, less inflammation. And so we can actually extract the nutrients out of our food, and we can get rid of that which is not serving us, and letting go through detox. And then Tommy, I love how you explain upstream, downstream. Do you want to talk about? So yeah, let's do it.
I'd love to. So Dr. Nick really was the first one to introduce this concept to me, that we're born into this pristine river valley with the beautiful, beautiful lake and river coming through, grasses and healthy flora and lots of, healthy animals. And there's an ecosystem of balance and beauty, oxygen, prana rich, chi rich, energy rich environment. And all of us really are born in a temple like that called the human body. And to varying degrees, we come into the world in this beautiful terrain, the upstream river valley. And then we start to add certain things into the mix. We start to eat in certain ways. We start to stress in certain ways. We start to take on toxins in certain ways. And some of us make really, really conscious and amazing, well-informed choices around food, and other people don't. All of us are going to experience the downstream from our upstream choices. Now, I'm going to use a little French here, and forgive me, but the very famous and incredibly powerful woman, Vandana Shiva, who's an environmentalist and an amazing human being, she says human beings are the only species on the planet Earth that shits upstream from where they eat. And there's so much truth to that. And if you think about that, wow, why would we do that? Why would we poison our water, our air? Why would we use poisons in the production of food? It's so backwards. But this is the world we live in today. And so we have to do everything we can to combat this, to become conscious right away. And no matter where we are, We want to restore the beautiful terrain of that upstream river valley, which is still a possibility for all of us to move towards that pristine state. It requires not just a healthy diet. It also requires a strategy for detoxification. There may have been a time in our world where a healthy diet was enough. We get the amount of minerals that we need, or enzymes, proteins, fats, etc., and we're good to go. In the world today, we really quite literally take on so much toxicity, not to mention toxic stress, that we end up in a downstream toxic situation where now we're sick, or we're starting to feel certain things happen. And we notice certain things in our body, don't we? And we want to get that inflammation out of the body, get the aggressors, we'll call them, get them out and create a detoxified state in the body and return ourselves to balance. That's really what we're talking about. I love this slide. I'm just going to simply say there's 3 things that are causing disease from the naturopathic perspective: toxins, trauma, and infection. Dr. Nick?
Yeah, that's it. And just like how there's always been an aim towards a unified field theory of physics, I would say that the unified field theory of medicine or healing or health or dis-ease is through this manifestation of inflammation. And when we really appreciate that, of what's upstream driving an inflammatory load into our body, that's literally what's driving all the symptoms that we experience. And so toxins can be from a variety of sources. It could be toxic relationships. It could be toxic foods, as far as pesticides or different things that are sprayed onto our foods. It could be food sensitivities. It could be food allergies. It could be heavy metals. It could be other things that are in our environment that are bioaccumulating. Our body is so intelligent that it doesn't want to keep toxins in our blood. And so it'll shunt them to our cell membranes. That's a cell danger response. It'll shunt it to our fat in our body. So we store toxins in our fat as a way to compartmentalize, a way to adapt to the stress of toxicity. Trauma could be physical injury, to surgeries, to emotional trauma, etc. Infections could be dental infections, to microbiome imbalances, to parasite, to viruses, to bacteria. The whole host of different phenom that we can get exposed to. And this is why we're seeing a massive rise in autoimmunity. We're seeing this reality of dis-ease manifesting through our immune system not being able to regulate itself anymore. And so again, the bus that's being driven is inflammation. And in this concept of the 3-legged stool, as soon as you knock out one of these legs in the stool falls over. And that's the manifestation of illness. So we have the stressors being toxins, trauma, and infections. This is affecting not just the genetics, but the epigenetics. The expression, the external to internal, the internal to internal, the internal to external, how our body is interfacing with our environment is through this expression of epigenetics, above gene. So our genes manifest a response in response to whatever the stressor may be, and then the microbiome. So it doesn't take much to knock things out, but it does take time. And as time goes on, we can find ourselves into this manifestation.
Yes. So I want to go right to this statement that the health of your cell, the cells in your body, is the health of your body. And I think most people don't understand this connection. And why that's so relevant for us is because we're going to get down to the cellular level, and we're going to really look at things from that perspective in this program. And I think it's part of the reason why people have so much success with it. Because you want to understand the mechanism that you're shifting in your mind and body. You want to understand it. So if I tell you that insulin resistance simply means that when insulin communicates with a cell, its job is to tell the cell to open and allow sugar out of the bloodstream into the cell. Insulin resistance is when that communication is interrupted or not present at all. So the cell is no longer opening to allow the sugar to come out of the bloodstream. Sugar stays high in the bloodstream, and all manner of disease, oxidative stress, all kinds of problems take place as a result of insulin resistance. That's not even getting to the world and the land of pre-diabetes and then type 2 diabetes when you get into real serious trouble. So understand that, insulin resistance is a funny thing because it doesn't mean you don't have enough insulin in your body. It means that the cell receptors can't receive the message from the insulin. So injecting yourself with more insulin is not actually addressing that problem. Is this correct, Dr. Nick?
Absolutely correct. And yet that's the very treatment for type 2 diabetes is to give more insulin. And so what an interesting conundrum we found ourselves in medicine, to create a situation where we're perpetuating more illness. A great analogy, it would be like wearing headphones all day long, playing heavy metal, and then as time goes on, you don't take the headphones off. You keep having to turn up the sound on your Walkman. Well, it's not Walkman, your CD player, your iPod, whatever it might be, and you keep having to turn up the sound because you've created a desensitization. You've created resistance to that volume. And so we keep having to turn it up. And that's literally the method of treatment for type 2 diabetes, is to give more and more and more insulin. But the problem isn't more insulin. The problem is we're not receiving the message of that really important hormone. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. So, Dr. Nick, let's get right into the solution here. We remove the offenders, and we add. Most of what we do in the food reset is actually adding, because to really flood the cells with nutrient density, it's going to start to change your habits. Just that. You'll start to drop things away. You won't actually want certain things anymore. It literally, your cravings will shift. So if you're concerned about, is this thing like some kind of heinous cleanse that we have to go on, we have to give up everything. This is not what this is at all. This is very much additive. So we're going to add nutrient-dense foods. We're going to unlock the optimal function of the cell. Hydration and a nutrition plan is the correct plan for the body's ability to receive. That means bioavailability. So this is another concept that we're going to address. So it's basically, it can be summed up. It's not what you eat. It's what you can digest. It's what the body can absorb. This is also a place where people really fail. So we need to feed the right bacteria in the gut. We need to ensure that the harmful bacteria die off and the healthy bacteria flourish. And essentially, we're going to make ourselves an unwelcome host for disease. We're going to make ourselves into an unwelcome host for disease. So once you start feeling really good, you had to put that slide in there.
I did. This is part of the dialogue.
Classic. Go ahead.
Well, there you go. It's the two questions, right? What am I getting too much of? What am I not getting enough of? And it goes back to the father of medicine. So before you heal someone, ask if he's willing to give up the things that made him sick. We can all just ponder what Tommy's thinking right now in this photo. What exactly is going through your mind is probably the same thing that's going through most people's minds when they're faced with a plate full of goodness in front of them.
Yes.
How is this serving me? And maybe you can walk us through the picture a little bit. But essentially, the whole purpose of us coming together is to reconcile what's happening here inside the mind, recognize the struggle, how to correct that microbiome so we can fix the way that our body cells operate.
Yes. Well, thank God for Stu in our group here. He says, well, is it chocolate chip or mint chocolate chip? Bless you. All right. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to ask all of your permission. Just go to the chat bar and say yes if you feel it's all right. I want to talk to you now about the food reset specifically. Is this okay? Can we get into it? Okay. And I want to try to answer questions, and Dr. Nick and I are at your disposal now, and certainly for the entire month of October. So, Dr. Nick, can I share? I think I can share.
You should be able to share.
Okay, so I'm going to share screen. And here we are at the food reset. I think you guys, can you see this, Dr. Nick? Okay, so we begin on September 30th, and we'll go for 28 days, 4 weeks, through October 25th. The food reset is really designed to be exactly what it sounds like. It is a reset. It's one day at a time. It's very strategic. It's very fun. It's very easy. It's designed to build a new relationship with food and to increase and expand your understanding of what foods are available. We do a very, very deep dive into the vegetable kingdom. This is a utterly non-dogmatic food program. We do not push any diet. We just feel that each of us has to become a scientist and to explore for ourselves what works and what doesn't. And we want to facilitate that process for you. So we don't ever tell anybody what to eat because we couldn't possibly know what you should be eating. Only you can know, but we'd like to guide you into lots of experiences and reflection upon those experiences so that you can know what to do. I love our tagline here. It's change your life, never look back. So what we're doing for that is we're basically addressing inflammation, anxiety, depression, lethargy, and not sleeping well. We're going to be working on healthy weight for each individual, vitality, and immunity. There's an invitation here, which is a story from me and an invite for you to really understand where I've been in my journey with food. There's many reasons to take the food reset program. If you've ever asked yourself, I'm not in the body I want to be, I don't feel satisfied even after I've had a well-rounded meal, I'm experiencing pain in my joints, I want to expand my food choices, I generally have low energy and feel lethargic much of the time, all these things. So to break out of these patterns is the point of the food reset. So here's how it works, the schedule. We have live Zoom sessions on Wednesday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific and Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific. All the live sessions with Dr. Nick and I are recorded. You can count on 90 minutes to 2 hours. We say 90 minutes. Usually we like to go 2 hours because we love this and we love you and we love connecting and we like especially to answer your questions. And so we want to make sure that everybody's heard and seen and we can really get to the work that we're doing each week. We have these things called love missions. These are assignments for you. I always felt like the word homework was traumatic. And these love missions are not homework. They're things you're going to fall in love with that you will love to do. And you'll get those assignments each week and they will help you along your journey here. We have a morning practice that we will all do together through this program. And I do want to emphasize that we will support you and everyone in this program to do cardiovascular exercise through the entire program. In addition to this morning practice, it's a very short morning practice that we're providing for you. Great way to center. We're also going to be really emphasizing moving the body. And we'll come to that for those of you who are interested in joining us for this journey. And we have a very powerful community portal. We are going to be able to stay connected with you. You are going to be able to stay connected with us. You are going to be able to stay connected with each other through this community portal. It's really designed to be easy, accessible, and fun. Okay, so you can find all this information and you can join us. I'll give you the pitch in just a moment, but I want to say this. There are usually 2 or 3 hesitations that people have that I want to address right up front, right now. The first hesitation is, I'm not going to be able to do it. Self-doubt. And what I want to say to you is, you will. You can. You must. If not now, when? You can say, well, I've tried before and it hasn't worked for me. It doesn't matter. If you tried before, then you got that much closer now to succeeding with your health goals and moving down a path. And I want to say up front, you're going to be successful if you do the things we ask you to do, if you orient yourself to this program each week. There's no question. There's never been anyone that did these things that didn't say at the end of it, that was an unbelievable transformation. I'm so grateful. Dr. Nick, what would you say about this issue of self-doubt that some people have?
Yeah, it's common even in practice. You know, I always find it interesting when people come in and it's one of the first things they share is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. Like, what kind of like crazy diet are you going to put me on? And what's fun is that there's application and experience. And so going back to that energy as currency, when we start to realize that we can actually access more true energy, we have more bandwidth. You know, many of us are living busy, healthy lives, and we're just to be honest, many of us are just getting by. Many patients that come in to see me and they break down just saying like how much of a struggle it feels like to get through the day. And I always ask them, well, how much is that costing you to live in that state of dis-ease, of low energy, to really just like we said, push a thought through jello, like push yourself through this sort of challenging world where we don't feel like we've got access to more of us. And
Yes.
so it's easy to see through that lens where I don't think I can do it when we don't have that currency.
Yes, you can do it. Second hesitation is money. I don't have the money, or, oh my God, this is so expensive. So I'll take a moment on that right now. And then Dr. Nick, you can from your perspective. I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands of dollars I've spent in my life to doctors, and, you know, back in the day when I was an addict and really struggling in my mind and body. And I know that when people get sick, the expense of it financially is unbelievable, but it's nothing compared to the expense of being sick and losing your vitality and losing your life, and then having to pay attention to getting better from being sick rather than getting to live life. That's called downstream putting out fires. So this program is $897, but we're offering a discount of $300 to the people on this call. $597 is what we're talking about. Dr. Nick, how much does it cost for somebody to come to you at your clinic? And I ask everybody watching, like, how much money do we spend on a doctor's visit? Here, you're going to have a doctor at your disposal, a naturopath especially, and a yoga teacher and nutrition expert at your disposal for 30 days, uninterrupted, totally paying attention to you, your questions, your challenges, and taking us through a process that will change our life forever. So what is that worth to you? You know, Dr. Nick, what do you see?
Yeah. I mean, often when people come see us for initial visits, $327, that's Canadian dollars versus American, of course. And then people, because of our recommendations, often there's testing, there might be some supplementation, there might be some, you know, other costs that come up. And so it's not uncommon for people to have to spend close to $1,000 just to see us after one visit. And that's not the cost every time, but that can be an upfront cost that people should take into consideration. This is why, honestly, we direct a lot of people that can't access direct care through courses and things like this to take their health back.
I think it's just such an important thing for people who are in recovery from addiction also, to really take a look at this thing once and for all. We need to hydrate in a way that we can't fully understand. There's a whole section on hydration in our course. We need to share with you the 4 buckets, the real 4 food groups that we need to be aware of. This is about remineralization of the body and the cells. And just think about turning raisin-shaped cells into healthy, plump, juicy, amazing grape cells, and feeling energy and mental clarity and hope and possibility in your life. That's what this is about. And so from the financial perspective, I really look at it as for me personally, how can one afford not to do this if you are struggling in the ways that we've been discussing, and almost everybody is. So I want you to be excited. I want you to make this investment in yourself. And I want you to understand that we're going to spend 28 days together that are going to be a delineation for your entire life. You will look at it as, I was one way before I took this course, and I was another way, and my life changed forever, and I never looked back. And that's the really, really important thing when we think about this. So if you register for the food reset, you'll get to take advantage of a $300 savings. That's pretty amazing, I think. So the other thing, another fear that people have is time. I don't feel like I have the time to do this. And so, this is what I would say about that. Your sense of time and your priorities completely shift when you orient towards nourishment, food, health, and healing. This is the priority. This is the priority so that we can show up in our relationships. This is the priority so we can show up in our family. This is the priority so we can be creative, spontaneous, and free. This is the priority so that we can be experiencing the fullest bloom of this life. Dr. Nick refers to it as health span, not lifespan, but how long can we be vibrantly healthy? Dr. Nick, what would you say about people not having enough time to tend to this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm always interested in hearing this one, because many of us are, someone just wrote, I work 2 jobs. You got 2 kids or 3 kids or more. Where do I find time to fit this in? And I asked myself that same question. So I hear where you're at. I mean, I run a couple podcasts. I've got a couple businesses. I make time to do these courses. I sometimes don't know where I have time. And yet I couldn't imagine not doing the work that I do, because I wouldn't have the energy to do all the things that are necessary in order to feel like I can thrive in life. And it's time and time again, I hear patients who find ways to make things happen. And it's always those success stories and I'm always blown away too. Like, how'd you do that? Like, how did you get that done? It's because we do prioritize things. We make things important. And, whether someone's able to come live to every call or not, the recordings are there. And so you still get to access them at the pace that you can handle. And because there's that community support piece too, I find that, we rise with the tide. And so often we're going through very similar struggles that other people are. And when we start to see that we're not alone, we can truly step into that grace for ourselves where before it seemed too difficult. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you take everybody through a visualization of looking forward into the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I often do with our patients as well, just to help them anchor into their body, because it's so common that the fear, the strategies that are inside of our mind, the amygdala actually in our brain that's firing, saying, danger. It's that expression, that cell danger response. So what I'd like to invite you guys into is, if you would, just come inside your body for a moment. If you would indulge me, maybe close your eyes and get yourself seated and rooted down into the chair, the floor, or maybe you're standing. Just feel yourself on the ground. Feel that connection. And what I would like you to do is visualize where you see yourself in 1 year from now. So if you were to do nothing, or do nothing different, take no new action in your health, what would life look like a year from now? How would you feel? What would you be doing? What kind of conversations would be coming up inside your head? Would you feel empowered? Would you feel self-nurturing, like you took action on self-care? Would there be a new illness that shows up? Would you be on medication? Are you still on medication? Now, if you would step forward a couple more years, what does life look like 3 years from now?
If you did nothing.
If you did nothing. And what are the circumstances? What does it look like to not take action 3 years from now? And then again, what about 5 years from now? And so, just notice the feeling in your body. Does it feel heavy? Do you feel light? Do you feel empowered? What are you feeling? Now, what I'd like you to do is center back into your body. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale. So we mentioned before that there's these things in our life that we feel like the unresolved dreams, the unrealized dreams, the things that we wish we took action on. We talked about the pandemic procrastination. So what if you were to step into an opportunity for really truly stepping into your health? And so what if you did choose to take action? Maybe it's this course, maybe it's something else, but you chose something that you know that you need to take action on. What does that feel like? Now project yourself a year from now. You've completed the program. Maybe you've gone through the portal 3-4 times. You've surrounded yourself in this community. You've felt the love and support. You've seen goals be accomplished in a relatively short period of time. And how does that feel a year from now? What are you wearing? Do your clothes fit differently? Does your fridge look different? Is there different groceries that made their way into the pantry? Are you moving differently? Do you feel more muscle on your body? Do you feel like you want to be more active? What does that feel like? And I'd like you to project yourself 3 years ahead. So now you've really established a routine. Your daily rhythm is solid. Do you feel empowered? Do you feel like you're taking control of your health? Do you feel like dis-ease is no longer a part of your reality because now you have a new realization of self-control, self-awareness? And then 5 years from now, what does your health look like? What does your life look like? What does your energy look like? What do your relationships look like? So I'd like you to take a deep breath in and exhale, and coming back into this moment. And all of the choices that we have are obviously all in front of us. The community that we want is part of the mission statement of R2O is to live in that state of vitality, to find a new way, a recovery 2.0, a new way forward for our healing. And we're here with you. We're here with you together. So welcome to the journey if you choose it. And Tommy, take it away.
Well, Dr. Nick, thank you for that visualization. I want that second one. I want to take, I want to go to the next level of my health. As you know, I work with you on that on a daily basis. And I have been the beneficiary of just so much from you. And I also have been able to bring yoga and meditation and these incredible spiritual practices into my life, which have, for me, made all the difference in the world. And I'm also excited to share this holistic, spiritually, environmentally, mentally, emotionally, physically conscious approach to life with everybody. So come and join us, please. If not now, when? Truly. If this calls to you even just a little bit, please come. So I see a few questions I want to answer. Some people are saying, is there going to be continued support after October? The community is going to be, you will see that the hundreds of people that are going to go through this program in October are going to become friends. It happens every year. The resources and the friendships and the love there and the community of support is unimaginable from here. You will see. That community stays intact. The program stays available to you for the foreseeable future. So you can come back to it again and again and again and again. Redo it if you like. The recipes will be available to you. The different videos will be available to you. All the resources of the course will be available to you. So also someone's saying, is the email support coming from us? Of course it's coming from us, directly from us. I just want to just really hit on this for a minute. We are with you for the month. When questions arise, we will answer them. It's Dr. Nick and me. Sometimes he'll chime in, sometimes I'll chime in, sometimes we'll both chime in. but we're with you for the month. And we want to go through this with you as much as maybe you want to go through it. So that's the thing. Let's see, a few more questions here. Someone is saying, thank you. The course is life-changing. Do not hesitate. Thank you, Damayanti. Thank you so much for that testimonial. That's so lovely. Let's see. How much of what is presented is a cooking class? Well, I wouldn't call anything we do a cooking class, but there's a lot of instruction in the kitchen for sure, but it's really more of a holistic look at food, why we're choosing certain foods, and how to prepare certain foods in certain ways. So there's definitely a cooking element to it. I also want to share, I'm a foodie. I have a lot of bliss and joy. I really do see food as a joyful thing and a medicine for me. And so I want to share that joy with you, and I want to share some of the tricks of the trade and how we can prepare super clean, super nutritional food. So I will share everything that I've learned these last 30 years of trying. Will there be a weekly support group after the course ends? So there will be all kinds of support coming after the course ends. We will not be facilitating that on a weekly basis. However, there will be what we call surprises coming down the road for you. And if you become members of the Recovery 2.0 community, you will see me and or Dr. Nick on a very, very regular basis. Don is saying, will we need to buy supplements? That depends. Dr. Nick, would you comment on that?
Yeah, in the past, we've shared some information on some of the things that could correlate with the course program. In no way, shape, or form is it mandatory or is it a have to. There are people that do struggle more specifically. We say blood sugar dysregulation or digestive breakdown. And so there's some generic support tools that are often extremely helpful that I do put on many of our clients, but there's no have tos. Absolutely not.
Wonderful, wonderful. There's this other great question here. So someone's asking me, forgive me, did you pay? I think that's to me. Did you pay to get clean? I think someone's asking me if I paid to get sober. Well, I went to treatment, and my family and insurance had to pay quite a bit. I've been to a lot of therapy. I've had to pay quite a bit. I've been to a lot of studying through yoga, health and wellness, spirituality, all this. I've had to pay quite a bit all along the way for my training and my health. And I feel so blessed to have been able to pay these people who had the skills to help me move to my next level. So yes is the answer to that question. Someone's saying, let's see, may I please know if women's hormones and cycles will be addressed in terms of food and health? Dr. Nick?
Hi there. Indirectly, I mean, what we usually do on that front is that we usually send people over to either our Health Ignited podcast or going through my wife's book, Woman Unleashed. There's some great external resources. But yes, we'll address it a little bit, but not to the degree that you may want. And that's where like our podcast is free. It's all on hormone health, and it's easy to access that extra information should you want to dive in deeper. But there's some general rules that we'll follow. Yeah. So
this is a great question here. Someone's saying, Sharon is saying, other members of the family, will it be an issue like having to make 2 meals each time? No. Make these meals for your family. Like, turn them on to what we're doing. I mean, everything is delicious and amazing. You'll see. It's really, really exciting that you asked that. It's just such a great thing. Is meal planning part of it? Not exactly. But we offer a lot of guidance about meals. But meal planning per se, you'll see. We'll get into it. Like we said, we can't really tell you what to eat, but we can show you how to explore and begin to move into greater understanding, awareness, and health for yourself. Do we get specific blood work done? You can work with Dr. Nick separately from this program if you want to go to the blood work level, get your labs and go to deeper level. I highly recommend you take this program first, because you're going to learn so many things that are going to be so very important to what you're about to learn if you do the next level with Dr. Nick.
I would also say that just on that note,
Yes.
when we're assessing for someone with insulin resistance does show up as a quote unquote normal blood marker, but it's falling within a particular range. So just wanted to address Aaron's question specifically. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for things when they're black and out of range. We're looking to see where they're moving, because we catch dis-ease before it actually shows up. And again, you may, in fact, Aaron, you may have like a pristine, you might be one of the 5 to 10%, but maybe not.
Wonderful, wonderful. So just to recap right here, once again, join us for the food reset. I just have, in the thousands of people that we put through this program, I have never had one single complaint from anybody that said it was anything less than miraculous. This is really, really the truth. So I shout from the rooftops because I know there's a solution to move into health, and I know there's a solution to move out of addiction, out of addictive eating patterns, and to really understand health at the next level and start to realize our dreams. And so what I like to say is we want to be a community known as a community of vitality. We want to be known as a community of service, a community of energy and immunity, a community of health. And in order to do that, we have to do the work. So come and do the work with us. Take advantage of the food reset offer right now. Save your $300 and come be with us for the month of October and beyond. And let's get our food reset on, and we'll do it together. Dr. Nick, any final thoughts, comments for tonight?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I get excited when people take action, take charge of their health. It's the biggest reward in being a naturopathic physician or physician in general is to see the look on people's faces when they come back, when they get their first lab work or whatever it is, they come back and they have a new lease on life. They've got more energy. It brings tears to my eyes every time I get to connect with someone at that level. And that feeling is literally those messages that come through, Tommy, that we got a chance to get back to the patients, or not the patients, the members in the course, are phenomenal. It lights us up to be able to serve you guys and be there to support you. I get excited going onto the portal and just reading what people are where they're stuck, where their wins are. And it really makes this is why I continue to be a doctor. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be there with you guys. I hope that you join us, and I'm excited.
Well, I'm incredibly excited too. And I want to say thank you to everybody who took the time tonight. Bless you all for being on this call. May we all be moving towards greater health, greater presence, calmness, contentment, joy, freedom, fulfillment in this life. I want you to have a great night. Let's just bring our palms together at the heart center, please. Before we go, we'll say a little prayer. It's the Recovery 2.0 prayer, and it really sums it up. Again, you sign up at the link right here in the chat bar. All right, let's take an inhale. Universe, put us in the places you want us to be, with the people you want us to be with, doing the things you want us to do. Thank you for the joys and challenges of our lives. Amen, Satnam, and Namaste. All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the food reset and beyond. Have a great night. Dr. Nick, what can I say?
Love you.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Blessings.